It's time again for the political analysis of Fromm and Fuller. Al Fromm, former political advisor to President Bill Clinton, and Craig Fuller, former political advisor to both President Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Good morning, gentlemen. Wow, so here we are with the political convention electronically, and I'll just start with Craig. How did you think everyone did last night, including President Obama and Kamala Harris? And what do you think of the format?
I'm actually quite intrigued with the format. George Bush, President George Herbert Walker Bush, asked me to chair his convention in 1992, and what Al knows, and what sort of not a very well kept secret, is these big conventions really were meant to reach a televised audience. The people in the auditorium, whether it was 20,000 or 50,000, were there a little bit as props, to be honest with you. They already had made their decision, and the conventions were trying to reach people at home. They're brutal on speakers because other than the very top speakers, everybody else is talking over the crowd, which never stops talking. You have all kinds of imperfections in the production. And honestly, I thought this convention so far has been pretty flawless. And I think it's delivering a message to people overall that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris understand people like you. They do it with a wide variety of people. Some of them, I have to confess, aren't like me, but I think the voters they have to reach have to be impressed with the full group of people that are stepping up to support Biden and Harris. As for the last couple of nights, we could probably talk about this. I thought Joe Biden actually had a stunning performance, standing in a classroom where she used to teach, delivering a message that was about her husband and about the country. I don't think she ever mentioned President Trump. It was all about kind of moving forward. And then, of course, last night was the stunning speech by former President Barack Obama, unprecedented in terms of taking apart his successor in office, but a real battle cry to turn out and vote. And Kamala Harris, I thought did a fine job. I think I've seen her stronger, I think, standing in that kind of empty hall, especially when they backed off with shots of her standing at a podium with not many people around, made it a little difficult. But I think she did what she needed to do. She introduced herself. She certainly provided a stunning kind of description of Joe Biden. And actually her introduction with members of her family and her friends was, I thought, one of the high points. So I don't know, I give them high marks. They've got one more night left, but I think so far it's doing what it needs to do for the Biden-Harris ticket.
Al, is this the wave of the future? And what are your thoughts about the speakers that we've heard so far?
Well, I hope it's the wave of the future. What Craig said about conventions is absolutely true. And there's one other thing that I think he went through in 1992 and hurt the Democrats last year, was that at conventions, all the dissidents can go outside and protest. And you don't have any protests. You're not hamstrung by all the big donors and lobbyists who crowd a convention. Frankly, I very quickly, after going to about a dozen of them, couldn't stand even going to the parties. It's just too much. So I love this. For the Democrats this year, they had to deliver a straight message. What a great format for that. The key speakers are able to speak directly to the voters. I think they wanted to do three messages. One, Trump is not up to the job. Second, Biden offers, and Biden-Harris offer the kind of compassionate, empathetic leadership necessary to pull the country together and deal with these crises. And third, you better vote early and often because Trump is going to try to suppress your vote. I think they got that across very clearly. As Craig said, they hit all sorts of constituencies, from Bernie Sanders to John Kasich. They're clearly interested in expanding their vote, which is one of the things that, at least so far, Trump has shown he's incapable of doing. And finally, I just want to say something about Obama last night. I thought President Obama was terrific. Actually, I'd like to go back and see some of the things Teddy Roosevelt said about William Howard Taft, because that may be the one precedent. When he ran against Taft later, I think 1912. But I thought the contrast of Obama with this incredible speech at Constitution Center about the threat to democracy, and Trump's just feeble, inane tweets, all caps, that were absolutely incoherent in response. So for me, this convention has worked well.
I want to stick a little bit to the vice presidential race, if there is such a thing. And Craig, last week, the SPY did a survey on the impact of Kamala Harris. What did you see there? Was there anything that came to mind?
Well, I think there is. I think we should say that, first of all, this is the 22nd survey I think you've done at the SPY, which is kind of remarkable every week. It's built up quite a following with hundreds and hundreds of participants, and that makes it relevant. It's not a scientifically selected sample. These are readers of the SPY who choose to participate. And so one of the things that I looked for was to what extent the sort of the demographics of the respondents matched the voter registration. And it tilted a little bit more, fewer Republicans, more Democrats, at least as registered, although the survey asked people what they considered themselves to be today. And who knows, a lot of people may consider themselves to be something other than the way in which they're registered. That having been said, the head-to-head competition as a predictor, I'm not sure that it means as much as what I saw with the people who declared themselves to be Democrats, as you would expect, were wildly enthusiastic about Kamala Harris, and 99% of all the Democrats that took the survey said they're going to vote for Biden-Harris. But the voters, as we've talked about on this show before, the voters they have to be concerned about are the independents and those in the middle. And Kamala Harris moved that needle a lot. Not quite 2/3, but well into the 60% range of independent voters who said they are now more likely to vote for Biden-Harris than they were before Kamala Harris's selection. And that's, I think, highly meaningful. If that becomes true in key states and across the country, this election has been decided. So I think you have to look at these numbers and suggest, at least from the area where we have SPY readers, that this election did no harm for sure, and did a whole lot of good with the very voters that Biden has to capture to secure a victory.
Al, you had a chance, I think, to look at the data as well. Anything pop out?
First of all, I agree with Craig. You can't read too much into an unscientific poll. But the thing actually that did pop out to me is that both of these counties, Talbot County and Kent County, went for President Trump in 2016. And so if this survey is any indication, and independents are moving or have been positively impacted by Kamala Harris and more likely to vote for Joe Biden this year. The Republicans don't look as solid for Trump. That could really be an indicator of what's going to come this fall.
Well, and then finally, Al, I want to stick with you. The Senate Intelligence Committee released their final report on Russia. And for lack of a better word, they nailed the Trump administration. and the Trump campaign. Does this mean anything anymore, though? I mean, you know, some of this we've kind of predicted or baked in.
Well, I think, first of all, I think in an ordinary time, this would be the most enormous story in the country, because this is pretty serious. This is not a partisan investigation. The Republicans have the majority. There are more Republicans on that committee than there are Democrats. And basically they said that Trump lied. He lied about his dealings with Roger Stone and WikiLeaks, that the Trump campaign cheated in a sense in 2016. They worked enthusiastically with a Russian intelligence agency, business partner of his campaign managers. They exchanged polling information with the Russian intelligence agency, essentially. I'd say that's pretty serious. The other, but there are two things that I think could have an impact. One is they're continuing to do it. I mean, if you think about the way Barr has tried to protect Roger Stone and General Flynn, Ron Johnson, a Republican senator, still takes information from those from the Russian agents, and Trump basically continues to invite that kind of interference. But the second thing, there are some key Senate races where it may have some impact too, because Susan Collins, John Cornyn, and Mitch McConnell, who I all believe are up this year, voted to acquit Trump knowing that he was guilty. And so, you know, will it have impact? I don't know. There's been so much out, but it's certainly going to lift the Democrats' guard. And I think, again, if you think about President Obama's speech last night about the threat to democracy, this report really gives credence to that.
Craig, any thoughts on this?
Well, I think that it validates what I certainly thought at the beginning, and that is the 2016 time period was almost a perfect storm. I think Donald Trump had an ambition to build a better relationship with Vladimir Putin. I think Putin had an ambition to see Donald Trump elected. And they both set about on a path that put us into this place that the report issued clearly documents, that you had operatives from Putin's side and operatives from Trump's side finding common cause. It was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Certainly a presidential candidate should not have surrounded himself with people who were so eager to please him when it comes to ties to Russia. But we knew that. We've known that. If this report has value, I hope it is a stunning reminder to anybody in any campaign that this sort of support that the Russians sought to provide, surely the Chinese are doing the same, perhaps for a different candidate, that kind of support is totally inappropriate, and interfering with our elections ought to be something that we take very, very seriously. I agree with all that Al said. If this was a normal time, and it's surely not, this is a blockbuster of a bipartisan report. But as I said, I think it confirms what most of us thought had happened, and it ought to be a reminder and a warning that it should not happen again.
Craig Fuller, Al Fromm, thanks a lot. Can't wait for next week.